This is the Force. This is the weapon of the Jedi. The Force will be with you. Always.
Hello, I'm David Glass, Mayor of Petaluma, and with me is a past recipient of the Good Egg Award, John Crowley. And John, congratulations on being a good egg, and just around the corner we'll be selecting another one.
Has already been selected, actually, and announced. It's Lindy Brown. Great person who's done so much for Petaluma, and I'm so delighted that she is the recipient this year. Perfect person to get it, and it's a great celebration.
Okay, so this is a good time because the week before the Butter and Egg Day Parade, on the Saturday prior, there'll be a celebration here at the Petaluma Museum. What I like about it is they bring back all of the recipients of the award that care to attend, and so you'll be there as one of the cherished alumni of that award.
Yeah, it is. It's nice because we do. It's formed a kind of a small knit community of good egg recipients, and each one of them is more amazing than the next one. For Petaluma is quite extraordinary. You know, the work, the volunteerism, the promotion of what Petaluma has to offer is amazing, and I love it. I'm there. I'll be there for every celebration from now on.
It is so interesting, the good news that is coming to Petaluma. I got a thing today from a company that tracks the best, most successful, stable housing markets. And I know housing is controversial, but actually Petaluma improved from, I believe the ranking last year was 20th in the state of California to 7th in the state of California by this ranking that they had, and that it's a number one in Sonoma County. And I didn't bring the information and criteria that it was based on. Maybe I Number one, no other community that I saw on the list was ranked in Sonoma County, but Petaluma was. So a lot of times with the housing, people are frustrated about what's going on in housing. Market forces are taking a path that are difficult to project, difficult to control, and virtually impossible for the city to have a meaningful program in this day of the way funding is. But yet there are some things that are right about housing and happening, and it's good to know that people have at least stability in their home, and we don't have on a percentage basis the factor of the homes that are underwater compared to elsewhere in the state.
True. I remember seeing a study in the United States about people moving houses every 4.5 years. And that, I guess, is a sign of, do you like the house you live in? Do you like the community? No, you're always kind of going out searching. But people in Petaluma, once you've moved to Petaluma, there's no other reason to leave Petaluma.
Well,
because of the, it's great schools, it's great downtown, it's a great sense of community. Why would you ever want to leave? And there's a lot of fun going on here, too, so...
And the statistic backs that up, because the length of stay in a home was 15 years, which was high.
Yeah, that is actually, that's great. That's great, a great reflection on what is happening in Petaluma.
And like my wife and I, we've been in our home 23 years. Well, I look back and I say, will I be there another 23? Now, that's a tough question because you start doing the math. As you get older and you go, oh, boy, 68 plus 23. I want to be there another 23. Might be tight.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Don't worry. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. So a lot going on in the politics on a national scale. This thing gets to be more and more intriguing. And I'm speaking, of course, of the Republican side of the equation, where they have the most interesting presidential selection process that I have ever seen. Be it Democrat or Republican, I've never seen anything like it.
I think than anybody has ever seen. It really is quite amazing to see that just complete mess. And is this the end of the Republican Party? I don't know. It's certainly morphing, certainly changing. I heard a couple of days ago recently, somebody was saying that all this is gonna end up with Paul Ryan getting the nomination. Who knows? I know it's a mess anyway, and it's Europe and the rest of the world are kind of scratching their heads, and many people in America are scratching their heads and saying, well, "What on earth is going on?" Because it's not even funny anymore. It's actually quite scary. It's very serious, and it's our country.
What's interesting to me about it is I look at it, and in a way it's predictable, because for a couple of decades at least, there has been a path where the truth really hasn't mattered in politics. Leveling with people and telling them the truth. Reporters have shifted from the time that I studied journalism, where the truth was what you were seeking in journalism. It no longer was. It was something called, well, let's go out and get a balanced report. So what you get when you get a balanced report is you get a lie on one side, balanced by a lie on the other, and they go, and there's your story, without anybody challenging what the truth is. So as that is your standard, you get greater and bigger lies on each side of the equation, and that's what we're dealing with right now. The lies in the Republican Party are whoppers, and evidently the bigger the lie, the more people are willing to swallow it.
It's interesting to watch. I was unfortunately a couple of weeks ago kind of, strangely enough, enthralled by watching these awful train wreck videos of Trump, and I kind of felt myself just getting sicker and sicker because it's just, as you say, bigger and bigger lies, bigger deception, and it's interesting to see what the public eat up and how their minds are changed by this absolute. It's not journalism at all. It's I'm not sure what you would call it, but it certainly isn't journalism.
It might be the extension of these reality programs that they have with, you take a guy that, sure, he was a successful developer, went bankrupt a few times, but had some very successful projects beyond a doubt. But you take a guy that does that and then he gets a program called The Apprentice. Think about the concept. Not going to pay people. They're going to come in and we're going to do a TV game show with people's lives, and it culminates with somebody getting fired every week. And all of a sudden getting fired, which is a traumatic experience, all of a sudden it's entertainment.
It is interesting. I mean, he is the archetypal capitalist who, to get where he is now, he's had to squash a lot of people. And stand on their heads and not pay them a living wage, and he doesn't want to raise the federal income level. It's a disgrace. He knows that, but he doesn't, because mainly his entire life has been gathering more money for himself. He's not really very interested in paying his low-level employees more. Certainly not interested in raising their federal minimum wage. So it's amazing to see that so many people wanted him in as president.
Now, what I have to ask, because he's fond of saying, look, we have some really stupid people in Washington. So if he gets elected, do we have more of them? I think so.
I think that's exactly it. It's going to add a couple more by himself and his staff to that. It's just amazing. I really don't know what to think, and I think we're all kind of waiting in bated breath to see how on earth this train wreck is going to end.
I don't know how it ends. It's a mystery ride. Strap on your seat belts, because there's things out there in the financial markets, and people need to kind of reshape how they think about the financial markets, because probably somewhere they have funds that are going to be for their retirement that are wrapped up in an investment of some kind. That probably is true, and if it isn't true, you're in real trouble, because that means the only thing you have for retirement is going to be Social Security, which there was an effort to privatize Social Security and wrap it up into some kind of investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know what percentage of the American public just has Social Security. I fear that it's quite high, and that doesn't have 401ks, doesn't have investments stashed away. I think it's it's a scary thought to think of that. If Social Security is your only form of retirement, I better start thinking now.
A long time ago, when I got involved in local politics, I said, look, I would tell you this, with a passion, I may hate the position that people are on the opposite side of something, a city hall. I may hate their position, but I don't hate them.
No, and it's
But I think we've changed in politics now to where people are actually selling hate the other person.
Yeah. Really,
not locally, but nationally.
Yeah, it is. And, what we do is we look towards national, and sometimes that's reflected and kind of trickle-down effect. And I think we've got to stop it and change it and start working together and getting things done. And enough of this division. There is an interesting group in the Senate called No Label. They're a group of senators who've got together to actually start getting things done, again, from both sides of the aisle. And I think it's a start of something, because there's quite a few of our representatives who are very much pissed off with what's going on. And they don't see the direction of our country and our politics. And I think it is time for change. Something's going to happen out of this, definitely. It needs to.
One thing that's going to happen is eventually we're going to have another Supreme Court justice. But this really takes it to another level when you have Justice Scalia passing away, and his take on it was a strict interpretation of the Constitution. And the Constitution, nowhere in there does it say you're no longer president in the last year of your presidency. So I think if you don't want to legislate from the bench, you don't legislate and say when a president has a year left in office, he doesn't get to recommend a Supreme Court justice. And now President Obama has recommended by every accounting a moderate for the Supreme Court. And so it's interesting to see the Republican Party take a hard stance that they will not conduct hearings on this nominee. And there's nothing there that says in the Constitution they must conduct hearings. This is they should advise and consent, and their advice is that there'll be no hearing. That's it, dead on arrival.
Well, I feel the Republican Party has been hijacked, and the rank and file members of the Republican Party are also scratching their heads and wondering, well, where's our party gone? They don't. Most of them don't agree with what's going on in Washington, and I think it's probably time that they stood up and said enough.
Well, you know, interesting because President Reagan had a saying that he started in life as a Democrat involved in politics while he was a union representative for the Screen Actors Guild, that he didn't leave the Democratic Party. It left him. If he were alive today and we're looking at this, how would he evaluate and would he say the Republican Party has left any realm of common sense and that he could not subscribe to that? I would have to think he would come to that conclusion. I would hope that he would come to that conclusion because his name is on my college degree when he was governor, you know.
Really?
Yes, you know, and he got bigger billing than I did. And Kaye Chandler saying yes, him too. You know, I'll say this, Governor Reagan knew how to handle a marquee. On my college degree, I'm in little writing. He's in big, sweeping writing. No kidding.
Interesting indeed.
Anyway, that's enough of the national scene, but you follow it so much, and coming from Ireland, you're so much an American and follow it so greatly. I enjoy that portion of chatting with you because this is a fascinating time in history.
Yeah, my sister's over. She just came over she seems to have this wonderful habit of arriving in Petaluma every 2 years to sing at Aqus Cafe. Sang last night. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. And you know, her thoughts of what's happening is, again, it's just incredulity, just kind of scratching her head wondering how on earth we could be down this strange rabbit hole so far. And I think the rest of the world is kind of waiting to see what is going on because they can't figure it out either. Europe is having its own set of issues at the moment with immigration and refugees, a lot of refugees that they're having to help, and so they've got their own issues to deal with, and I think they're kind of looking at us going, they don't know what to think.
Well, you talk about Europe, and trains come up when you talk about transportation in Europe, and that's the theme of the Butter and Egg Day Parade this year.
Yes.
And so the Smart Rail will be coming the end of the year, but it's going to be themed around trains. Tell us about the Butter and Egg Day Parade.
Well, that's wonderful. It is celebrating Petaluma. It's like St. Patrick's Day for Ireland. Butter and Eggs Day is the same thing for Petaluma. It's where everybody gets out and watches the great parade, has a great time. Everybody is either in the parade or watching the parade.
Or both.
Or absolutely both. Both. This year at the front of the parade, we're going to have Lindy Brown. She's going to be she is already the Good Egg. And she's going to be leading the parade. And it's, as everybody knows, it's if you haven't been to the Butter and Eggs Day Parade, you really have to go. And I can't believe that there's very many people living in Petaluma who haven't been to it. It really is just, it's our Petaluma Day, where everything good happens in Petaluma, and it's a great celebration of the community and the business and what Petaluma has become. I mean, it always was a great community, and it's just gotten better as the years go by.
It's great fun, and so we'll look forward to seeing you. Put it on the calendar. That's Saturday, April 23rd for the Butter and Egg Day Parade. and then immediately following the following day of the Butter and Egg Day Parade. And this is a great job of cleanup that is done by the Downtown Association, our Public Works Department, all the folks that come together and clean up the town and then set it up for the Antique Fair.
The Antiques Fair, that is actually, it really is very good. People come from all over the United States for this. It's high quality antiques, and it really is. I always just enjoy just wandering around, seeing what everybody has to offer. Great day. It starts early. I know the folks at the Downtown Association don't sleep much that weekend, but it really is. It's a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you. Well, see, I'll be there. You'll be there.
The transformation of downtown Petaluma, actually over the last 15 years or so, it has really been spectacular because I can remember when people used to say about Petaluma, all it is a bunch of antique stores and vacancies. And there was a car lot that was vacant in the downtown and dilapidated, where I think it was Victory Chevrolet used to be. But now that's where the movie theater is.
Yep.
And so that was the beginning of turning the whole thing around and making Petaluma a place that when Harper's Bazaar magazine picked the most unique place in the world to visit, Petaluma, California, #1 in the world. I still get a kick out of that. And when I tell that story about sending a letter to the mayor of Paris, congratulating them on being on the list of the top 10, and if they ever had time to come to Petaluma. So I'm waiting for them to show up. I think one day they will.
Well, I think it's a reflection of the planning in downtown. I mean, putting the cinema downtown, I think was a brilliant idea. When I came here first 20 odd years ago, the cinema was out where Cole's shopping center is. You had to drive there, you know, when your movie was over, then you just got in your car and you left. Here you hang around downtown, you go and have an ice cream, you go and have a drink, you go and have something to eat. And that really kind of increases the level of, again, I'll go back to the social capital of people being in downtown, people meeting each other, bumping into each other. Has an incredible effect that I think a lot of town planners forget. Not here in Petaluma. I think they've done an excellent job of some of the things they've done here in Petaluma. Compared to a lot of towns in Northern California that don't have that sense of community or don't even have that kind of center of a town, which is very important for giving people a sense of community.
Well, what happens with a movie theater when you can get a dozen screens and people think about the hardest thing to get someone to do is leave their house. Once they've left their house, how do you keep them outside of their house and continuing to extend their evening into having a good time?
Yep.
The movie theater is perfect because they either eat dinner before the movie downtown, or they go to a film, and when the film lets out, they stop and enjoy dinner in a restaurant. And with 12 screens, it's perfect because there's various start times, various end times, and it's a continuous stream of client base walking into the restaurants. And that's why we have the restaurant mix that we do.
Absolutely. We've got great restaurants here. Do wish I remember when the cinema started, they were going to dedicate one of the screens to art movies, and I'm not sure what happened to that. It's a pity that didn't.
It is a shame.
But, c'est la vie, I guess. But one of the other things that was just kind of entering into the social capital and how us as humans kind of interact, I think certainly when people are building or developers are building houses these days, they're looking actually a little bit more at social interaction and how what makes our streets safe. And I live in a house with a front porch, front patio. I'm always on it. A bunch of my neighbors are always on it. It makes our streets safer just by having people out on the front deck. Also creates a nice sense of community. I gotten to know a lot of my neighbors just by people walking by and chatting with them. I find sometimes these housing developments that just have a big garage in front or garage in front. I was talking to somebody recently who kind of mused about the one thing that killed community was the automatic garage door opener. So you can just picture the car driving up back from work, the automatic car button being pressed, the door going up, the car driving in, and that's it, swallowed you up, and you don't even have to communicate with your neighbors.
I have one of those, and my neighbors appreciate the fact that they don't have to communicate with me. So,
well, maybe in some cases it's an advantage. I'm not sure, but it is something that does separate, and it's small things like that. If we don't have a patio out front, we don't have a neighborhood cafe or neighborhood. I'm thinking of the Aqus Cafe or Ray's or a lot of those places that act as kind of neighborhood gathering spots. I think it's,
Like Cheers.
well, exactly like Cheers, you know. And I kind of think it's a pity that you build kind of huge swaths of land with tract homes, and there's nowhere for people to gather. That I think is something that. Again, city planners are starting to look at and say, yes, we need a place for people to gather.
What I've always said about people when they brand me no growth, I said, look, it's not a question of growth because we're going to grow.
Yeah.
It's a question of what we grow up to become.
That's exactly true. You know, we are. I think we've put some good things in place in Petaluma. I'd like to see a little bit more emphasis on building things that. I think, you know, whenever you build a building, it's not just your environmental impact report. You should have a social capital impact report. What is it going to do to the surrounding? How is it going to help people connect? How is it going to help people build social capital? There are a lot of cities and planners who do look at that aspect, and I think people are starting to look at it in Petaluma. So
We got something adopted, but to me it was a meaningless and a big mistake because what got adopted, a name sounded okay, but it was predominantly edited, in my opinion, far too much by the development community at the last minute, and it got tweaked in a way that I think negates the advantage of it for the community. And they call it a community impact report. But what really happens is that it's a parcel-specific revenue generation, in my opinion, without an adequate accounting of what that project that is being proposed impacts elsewhere in the community. So you get a case at the end of an overstated benefit for a project and an understated liability for the community. And in my opinion, you get a case of Peter robbing Paul. You're transferring wealth from one pocket to the other, and that's how it plays out. So, you know, you start down a path with a vision, hoping to achieve something, and when it comes out and you see what was done and how the ramifications of it and how it plays out. And I've said this on the dais a few times that I think that those things constituted in Petaluma at this time do more harm than good. You know, the developers have to pay to do it. I think I would just as soon say to the developers, save your money, because I don't find the value in the material that is generated from it. So when you do these things, it's important to do them, like what you're saying, but it's equally important to make sure that you get something that's going to give you the feedback and information that you want to create that vision.
So what big developments have we got coming up in Petaluma?
Lots of them.
Lots?
Yeah.
Well, we do need housing. We definitely need housing.
I will save all of that for the council dais because I'm not going to get to where somebody, somebody gets to disqualify me. Okay.
This is a great event. It's we're trying to get everybody in Petaluma to juggle. And we're making these juggling balls. These are handmade by myself, yours truly. And you can get them at Aqus Cafe. And the whole idea is to improve our mental and physical, and just juggling has so many beneficial effects. A lot of schools are using it to help kids focus, so it's great for dyslexia, great for ADD, great for ADHD. It's like, we all know meditation, we all should meditate for, you know, half an hour. I don't have time to meditate. However, juggling really, it's a very, very similar kind of thing. It just clears your mind out. In Finland, they have amazing school system there where they do 45 minutes of learning followed by 15 minutes of just playtime, and sometimes in that they have juggling. It seems to cement what they've learned into the neurons of the brain. Other kind of interesting things, if we should start juggling, and if we juggle for 10 minutes for the rest of our lives, it tends to ward off things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Has great just keeping us young effects. So we've got this wonderful event, the Aqus Petaluma Juggling, March 26th, 1 p.m. It's going to be fairly short. We're hoping to teach 100 people how to juggle. Can you juggle yet? Yes,
no.
And I always say yet because you know it is something that
I can walk and chew gum
Okay.
on a good day. I can do that.
It is something really, and quite honestly, that you know, has all these wonderful positive effects on us, and it's something that they actually do in the junior high. I teach, my kids learned it when they were in junior high. They learned to juggle, and now they're in university, both studying engineering. And they tell me that they'll study and they'll get up and they'll juggle for a little bit as a kind of form of relaxation, and they find it really, really helps. And they're actually getting more complicated with the juggling with a couple of people and passing balls back and forth. So they're having fun with it, and I want Petaluma to have fun with it. Come down just behind Aqus Cafe. If you can't juggle, come and learn. If you can juggle, come and teach. So
Okay,
we'll see you
good
then.
thing. Okay, so what else?
We've got part of that day. We're going to actually start off March 26th because it is spring break. It's the crossover weekend for when all our kids are back from college, and we're starting off with a concert, a Saturday morning concert. The Haas family, they've got this wonderful tradition of playing the first Saturday of each new year, so the first Saturday in January. But we're hoping to start a new tradition of a spring break concert. So that whole day will be a fun day of welcoming our kids back, welcoming family members who've gone off. The Haas family are going to help us do that starting at 10:30 in the morning at Aqus Cafe, and that's going to be followed directly by the Aqus Juggling. We've got plenty of juggling balls for you. In fact, we're going to have a maker's booth there. You can make as many balls as you like. We'll teach you how to make them. We take tennis balls, we cut a slit in them, we fill them full of pinto beans, put some balloons over them. And we're going to invite people to make as many juggling balls as they want. However, for each juggling ball that they make for themselves, we're going to ask that you make one for the community. So hopefully you can make as many as make as many as you want. We've got a great donation from PVAC of I think about 500 tennis balls, used tennis balls. So we're going to, instead of them going into the landfill, we're going to turn them into juggling balls and put them to some use. A couple of other things. We've got our Veg Curious group. We are now in the Petaluma Seed Bank. Again, this is a group of people who are interested in plant-based diet, what it does for our bodies and what it does for the planet. So new location is Petaluma Seed Bank, and that is I think it's the last Wednesday of each month, 8:30. This is going to be a fun thing. Ped Lumens of yesteryear. We're sitting right outside the Carnegie Library, now the Petaluma Museum. By the way, I've just joined the board of the Petaluma Museum.
All right.
So
congratulations. That's good.
I'm honored to be on it and looking forward to working quite hard, very hard in fact. And so one of the first things we're going to be doing is we've invited the Ped Lumens of yesteryear to Aqus Cafe. We're going to be filming it, so if you can't get there, we're going to film it and you're going to see it later on PCA. However, we would like you to be there. This is there's a great group of people who kind of dress up as the Ped Lumens of yesteryear. So you've got Wickersham, you've got McNear, you've got a whole great, I guess what would you call them, the forefathers or the founding fathers of Petaluma, and they take on the persona of one of these Petaluma icons, I guess, and tell their story. So do come down for that. That's March 30th, Aqus Cafe. One other fun thing I want to tell you all about, I know we're running short on time. Again, what is Aqus all about? It's about connecting people. And one of the things that a friend of mine came up with recently, she's a therapist here in town, and therapists typically have a relationship between them and their client, and they might not know all the other therapists in town, and because it's kind of a one-on-one, it's the nature of the business. So having a keep calm and have drinks with shrinks. Make it a little bit light. It's fun. It's a gathering of all the local psychotherapists, psychiatrists for a little fun at Aqus Cafe. Come down and March 31st. It's a Thursday. We're known for that. Last week we had a phenomenal event. It was the Aqus Petaluma non-profit mixer. We had about a little over 100 people representing about 60 non-profits. Get them all into one room. We do some facilitated speed networking, followed by some breakout sessions. But what happened out of that was quite phenomenal. I mean, and that kind of thing will take. It's very much connecting, creating relationships between people. So many relationships were built that evening that will have changes and effects on Petaluma that will be lasting. So that's kind of something that we're going to do. I know we're running out of time.
That's it, John. We are out of time. John, we'll talk next month. Always a pleasure. It's great to see you again and do this, and thank you for doing it.
Likewise. Very much indeed, David.
I'm David Glass for John Crowley and for Kaye Chandler, our producer, and from the steps of the Petaluma Museum, where John is now on the board of directors and they do a great job. It's been nice talking to you.